Lesson 4, creating a data flow. Because you can do so much with NiFi and these data flows, I decided to split it up into two parts. So this will be part 1, probably be about 10 minutes long, and then part 2 will go into even more depth and some things you can do with these NiFi data flows. So let's just get started with part 1. In part 1, what we're going to do is we're going to use NiFi to transfer files from one directory to another. We're going to deposit a file in a directory, and NiFi will automatically pull it out and then go ahead and put it in another directory that we define. We'll also look at some of the NiFi airing capabilities. Specifically, we're going to look at the bulletin board, which is available in the GUI, which I showed you before how to access, and we'll do that again. And then we'll look at some of the attributes that come with NiFi. There are some built-in attributes that NiFi has for every flow file that it passes through the system. One of them being obviously file name. Whenever you create a flow file, whenever a flow file comes through the system, it's always going to have a file name associated with it. So we're going to look and see how we can actually access that attribute and change it. And then we'll go through some basic NiFi expression language settings. Basically, expression language is like a scripting language that lets you embed expressions into the flow, so you can go ahead and change things. In this case, we're going to actually set our file name for the file by using an expression language and a NiFi processor to do that. So for this lesson, we're going to need, I'm going to use two directories. One of them is going to be a send directory, and another one is going to be a receive directory. So again, you can follow my format here and just create it in our demo directory under the NiFi instance that you expanded. And again, a send directory, we're going to put files in there to send, and then the receive directory, we're going to put files in there that are going to be received from NiFi. Alright, let's get started. We're going into our demo directory, and we're going to create two new directories. One of them is going to be called send, another is going to be called receive. And then we're going to get some files to test with, so let's just use some NiFi existing files. I'm going to grab the README file, move it up a level. You can do any files you want. I'm just doing this for testing since we can talk about the same files. Then we'll go in the conf directory and grab the logback.xml file. Bring that up top too. So you see we've added a send directory, a receive directory, the logback file, and the README file. Alright, let's go start up NiFi. We'll go to the bin directory and type run NiFi. And once that comes up, we're going to grab two processors. Let's see, it comes up here. Again, we're using port 9090 that we set up in the previous lesson too. The default port is 8080 if you haven't changed it. Okay, we're going to grab two processors. The first one we're going to grab is a get file. We want to get a file from a directory. So we're going to grab that and drop it in our GUI area there. And then we're going to grab another processor to put the file in. It's called put file, obviously. And then we're going to grab one more processor that lets us log, we're going to log errors. It's called the log attribute. So let's go ahead and grab that, and we're going to use that strictly to log any errors we will find. So let's go to the get file, and what we're going to do is go ahead and configure that one. You can see we're missing an input directory, so we got to fix that, but let's go ahead and give it our path of the send directory. And this is just an expression language thing. It just basically says get all the files in that directory. We're not going to filter on any certain type of attributes of the file name. Okay, go to the settings. Let's just give it a name. I'll call it send it. And now we're going to go ahead and drag the success over to the put file. And we got a red box, which is good. So now we're going to work on the put file. And again, we're missing a directory to put the file in, to write the file to. So let's go ahead and configure the put file. Let's give it a name first. We'll give it receive it. and then we're going to give it a directory to write it to. So let's go ahead and give it our receive directory name. Now here's where we have the conflict resolution. If the file's already there, we have the option to say we're going to fail. So any failures are going to go down through this path here to the log attribute. So let's set that to failure. So at failures, the path is going to go down to the log attribute. And let's see, for the log attribute, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to set the logging level from info to errors. We only want to log errors. And let's give it a name. We'll call it, might as well be consistent, call it logit. And then we're going to self-terminate the success button there. We have the red square, which is good. And we need to terminate the success up here for the receive it. So let's terminate our success there, which is all right. So now we have 3 squares. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to shift and hit the mouse button and grab all of the processors, and we're going to start them all at one time. So grab them all, hit the little green arrow there, and now we can see all 3 of our processors are started. Let's go ahead and refresh it. And you can see by the 3 there next to the green arrow that they're all running. Let's bring up our send and receive directories as well as our NiFi GUI and just copy a file over. So we're going to copy the README file over to the send directory. NiFi is going to put it in the receive directory. It's going to do this by using these processors to actually do the sending and receiving. And then any error message will go in the logit. So let's copy the README. NiFi grabs it and copies it over to the receive directory. Let's do it again. And we're going to get an error because the file's already there. Okay, it would not copy it over because it's already there. So let's go ahead and refresh the screen here. We can see that we have one message in the queue to the logit. That is the error being logged because we already had a file named README in that directory. You can highlight the folder there to see the actual error message, or you can go to the bulletin board and get a more descriptive message that shows all of the attributes associated with that file. Something to note is one of the attributes is called file name, and there's the value of the file name, which was called README. So what we're going to do next is we're going to work with the attribute file name to see if we can actually define what we want to call the file in this case. So let's grab another processor, and we're going to grab a processor called update attribute. And we're going to use that to actually let us set the file name of the flow file. Let's go ahead and modify it, and we're going to give a property. We're going to call it, the property is going to be file name. So we're going to override the attribute that NiFi has, and we're going to name it gotit.txt. So any file we process through here is going to be named gotit.txt. Now in order to change the routing, we need to stop all these processors, and it's just a simple matter of dragging the arrow over. Let's give this a name. We'll just call it, for changing the file name, we'll just say set file name. And then we'll just drag the arrows over to change our flow. So the file will go through the set file name and it'll set it for us. Let's start them all up individually. Bring up our send and receive directories. And let's copy the README file over again, and you'll see that it's named gotit.txt now. Okay, because we set the attribute, we set the file name to gotit.txt. That's why the file name's gotit.txt. All right, let's try something else. Let's try and use one of the expression language features. We're going to go ahead and actually access the file name, and we're going to append something to it. So we're going to use the existing variable, that attribute called file name, and it's just going to let us reuse it. So you do that by doing the $sign and then the open bracket, close bracket, and we're going to name it file name, the name of the file underscore gotit.txt. So let's go to do this again. We're going to copy the README over, and this time it'll have README underscore gotit.txt. Okay, because we're using the existing file name as part of our attribute changes. All right, one last thing. We're going to use another feature of NiFi that lets us use a expression language variable, I guess you call it, called now. What now is, it'll give us the current time. and we're going to go ahead and use the current time as part of the file name. So let's go ahead and type that in. So we'll use $ bracket or paren, and then we're going to type now, and then we're going to format it accordingly to just display the hour and the minute and the second as part of the file name. Format's an expression language thing that you've probably seen in Java before. So we're going to go ahead and prepend the file name with the hour, minute, second of the current time. So let's do that. And apply. Go ahead and start it. And we're going to copy the README file over multiple times, and you're going to see that in the receive directory, the file name is going to have the hour, minute, second pre-appended to it, so we can keep copying it all the time. We're not going to get the error like we had before by the file being overwritten. So you can see here we have 9:48:24. We copied it again. Seconds should go up. So 32. We copy it one more time. So that way we're guaranteed not to error out by having the same file copied over. One last thing, if you look at the logit, you can see the error is gone now. And if we go up to the bulletin board, we'll see that there's no errors there as well. That pretty much times out after the last 5 minutes. Lesson 4, recap. In this lesson, we used some basic NiFi processors to copy a file from a directory. We created 2 directories in our environment. We created a send and receive directory, and we created an NiFi flow that would copy those files from the send directory and put them in the receive directory. In this case, we had a file called README that we dropped in the send directory. We set up a flow that NiFi would grab it and actually move it to the receive directory. We also saw what happened when you copy over the same file multiple times, and in this case in the send directory we saw that we got an error generated because the file was already there in the receive directory, and we were able to see the log error in the log attribute processor, but more importantly we were able to go to the bulletin board and view the errors over there. Specifically in the bulletin board we're actually able to view all the different attributes that are associated with that file. More importantly, we were able to see the variable or attribute called file name. Once we saw the attribute called file name, we were able to do some playing around with it by adding another processor called update attribute, where we actually overwrote the file name. Again, the file name attribute is going to be present in every single flow file that NiFi has. You can do with it whatever you want. Just remember the name is always going to be file name. So in this case, we took the file name, we just set it to some static value called gotit.txt. So basically, when we dropped the README file in the send directory, NiFi grabbed it, but in this case, it renamed it to gotit.txt and then put it in the receive directory. Then we took the file name and we just appended an existing value to it. So in this case, we took the existing name, file name variable, which you can access by $, squirrely brace, file name, squirrely brace. And then we just added some text to it. In this case, we added the text gotit.txt. So again, we dropped the README file in the send directory. NiFi grabbed it and renamed it by using the existing file name, README, and then adding gotit.txt to the end. So in the receive directory, it showed up as README_gotit.txt, or gotit.txt. And then finally, we used the NiFi variable called now to dynamically create a file name. So what we were able to do with that is use the current time, and using the time, we were able to insert that as part of the file name. So we really weren't going to have any issues with overwriting or erroring out by writing the same file over and over again into our send directory and having it get overwritten again and again in the receive directory. Because we used the now function, we were able to uniquely name the file based upon the time. So every second the file name would change. So we had no problem dropping the same README file in the send directory 4 times, but in the receive directory you saw we got 4 different results for the file name. They're just basically a couple seconds up from the original file name. And then finally we took one last look at the log and bulletin boards, and just an FYI, it only keeps the last 5 minutes of errors, so if you haven't had any errors in the last 5 minutes, the log and the bulletin board will be empty. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website at www.silvercloudcomputing.com. There's a NiFi webpage there that has an actual working demo of a NiFi process I put together. It's pretty in-depth. It uses JMS and some FTP stuff, processors. So you can go ahead and look at that. And of course, if you have any NiFi specific questions, please feel free to email me at nifi@silvercloudcomputing.com. Thanks.